Good morning once again. You join me at some unearthly hour of the morning in the car park for Wilmington Priory. I don't really know what to make of it. You look at these walls. I wonder if they were part of the Priory setup. Rather unusually set into the walls are these triangular sections. No idea what they are. The Wilmington Priory long ago dissolved, but just going to walk towards the field here. Good morning, horses. I don't want to startle you, but I do just want to come up. I'm afraid the gate is closed that I wanted to walk through to get up to the Long Man. I don't know why it's closed, but it's closed and locked. These could well be racehorses because there are racing stables around here. Anyway, there's an information sheet here about the Long Man of Wilmington. I don't know if you can read it. Anyway, while the horses contentedly eat their hay, there's another look at the moon. And sadly, for me this morning, I would have liked to have started my video up on the top of him. But, hey ho, best laid plans of mice and men, as they say. There is the Long Man of Wilmington, or the Wilmington Giant, all 227 foot of him. Now, chalk hill figures are not unusual, but he's unusual. We only have two human form hill figures in the country. The other one is the famous Cernabus Giant. This man is not quite a complete man, if you know what I mean, whereas the Cernabus Giant is. And there is a legend that Cernabus, which, to be honest, is a bit of a fallacy, if you'll pardon the pun, that if a couple play the horizontal boogaloo on the tip of him, if you know what I mean, the lady will get pregnant. I don't think that has any basis in fact. But anyway, that's the Cernabus, and it has a more historic history than the Long Man here. He's not recorded until around about 1710, so he probably didn't exist before then, and in the early years was known as the Green Man. I often wonder if that lent its name to the Green Man at Ringmer. Probably known as the Green Man because obviously the grass would grow back over the scraping out on the chalk, and so he would go green every now and again. First recorded instance of the outline being done in brick is in the late 18th century. And then in around about 1969, somewhere like that, He was somewhere between 69 70 thereabouts. The outline was done here in breeze block, and in the late 1980s, 1990s, it was all refurbished again. So the figure is now permanently looked after and permanently picked out in the chalk so it shouldn't fade. Very cleverly designed, so that his dimensions appear the same from almost anywhere that you look at him. There was a rumour at one time that he was put up there by the monks in the priory, but that certainly we now know not to be true. Why he was put there, we don't know. Some rumours say it was something connected with the Reformation. Others say it was a political thing. Nothing's in writing, we shall never ever know. But part of the remains of the priory certainly here, and a lovely grove of trees, but you can see the outer walls as we go down here. Sorry, my commentary's a bit scrappy this morning. I don't know why, perhaps I'm tired. We'll see if we can improve it as we go along. But anyway, I was told to go west, so going west I am. All this is quite interesting. I'm standing outside a building that's called the Plonk Barn, and I don't want to stay too long because I don't want to disturb their privacy, but can you hear this? The sound of water. I'm wondering whether there might have been an old watermill or something on the site there, which heads into the Cuckmere. Certainly here is a little rivulet which is on the eastern side of the floodplain of the River Cuckmere. And you can certainly see where a pond such as that might have drained out into here. We're now in the Cuckmere Valley. Try and keep the camera as steady as I can, but like I said, I'm just an amateur, and we're going into the village of Alfriston, one of the oldest places in this part of Sussex, rich in history, particularly smuggling, but I'm actually walking along what would have been part of the sea at one time, particularly at high tide. I've done that quite a lot lately, haven't I? But glacial activity and what have you, you see how it carved out this wide valley, and you look at the river now and you think, how? But I can tell you that when I get here, oh, cobwebs all over the place. This is but a shadow of its former self, but I'm going to be very quiet because there's something down there I want to show you. I was looking for one of those on the marshes the other day. There he goes. You see him? I have found you a heron. Oh, did you hear him croak just then? Right. Well, this is the way I like to bring visitors into Alfriston. Not usually at 5:20 in the morning, but you can see the original flood walls to the left, and now here are the flood walls or flood defences on the right, but even they get breached when the sea is particularly high. The water is brackish here. It's tidal up until the bridge over the A27, and you can maybe hear the traffic in the distance there. Alfriston is a lovely typical village, flint and brick walls, and the church up there, St Andrew's Church, very often known as the Cathedral of the Downs. It's a cruciform design, and one of the oldest Saxon origin churches around. That was rather nice to see that, wasn't it? The heron. You have to get up early to see the wildlife. I wonder what he was fishing for. He was obviously having a good look. He didn't like me coming along, but sorry, Mr. Heron. I've got work to do. I'll try and keep my voice down because obviously there's people living here. Kissing Gate Walk. That's interesting. Excuse me, somebody got a log store there. Wonder who that belongs to. Anyway. Unfortunately, one disadvantage coming here this time in the morning is the fact that obviously you can't go in anywhere, but on the other hand I can do my filming and get away without disturbing too many people. We are now on what is known as the Tye. It's Alfriston's famous village green, where, with the exception of this year, heavy August, for goodness knows when, they've had an annual fair. And even when I was a kid, my gran and granddad, who lived on a farm over in Battle, they would get on his motorbike. They had to come here for the annual fair at the Tye. It was that kind of attraction. Parish Church of St Andrew, and here you can see it. What a beautiful building, complete with this rather unusual round, I assume, chimney, from some form of old heating system. Very well kept churchyard. I don't think there's any harm in my going up here to have a little look. Although I did wonder if there was a pathway down to the old Clergy House, but it would appear not. So we'll go and have a closer look at the old Clergy House now. There's the rear of some of the buildings in Alfriston High Street. And that one there is the old coach house. That was a part of what would have been an old coaching inn. Coaches leaving Seaford for London. Horses would have been absolutely clapped out by the time they got here, as you'll see a little bit later on. And so this would have been a staging post and a change of horses. But I want to show you probably one of the oldest buildings round here. This is the old Clergy House, and is of interest because it's the first building that was bought by the National Trust way back in 1896. And as they say, they don't make them like that anymore. Now there are stories about these curved timbers. Those of you who know a little bit about the history of Sussex will know that at one time there was an almost impenetrable forest that cut Sussex off virtually from the rest of the country. And two things happened to that forest. Firstly was the Sussex iron industry, and secondly, according to rumour, was that the kings of England started tearing down the forest from the north to get timber to make ships. And apparently so annoyed were the Sussex folk about this. That's where you start getting the stories of the wreckers on the south coast deliberately enticing ships inland with false lights and ensuring that they crashed upon the rocks, whereupon the local people would descend on the wreck and recover goods and also timber, which after they dried it all out they would use to build their houses. Now that's interesting. What have we got growing over there? Let's take a quick look across here and see. There's a run of beans. Yeah, it's just one of these communal garden things. Oh yeah. That's interesting. Little notices asking you to keep social distance, which is fair enough in the light of the current situation, but how nice. Somebody could come along and pick, I guess, runner beans. I'm not going to, because I don't know whether I would have permission for that or not, but we'll head up into the village now. But before we do, this is of interest. It's used for collecting money for charity now, but this mine was washed up in the River Cuckmere during the war. And as you read there, if that mine had exploded back in 1943, it was that powerful, Alfriston would have been totally destroyed. Incredible when you think of it, isn't it? And here's the Alfriston and little village sign there. Rather nice. Right, let's go exploring, shall we? Maybe I should have worn a light jumper, but who cares? The sun will soon warm everything up. It's a beautiful morning out here. But Alfriston, absolute nightmare driving through. But as you can see, some lovely little properties here. We had a bus route through here once. Boy oh boy. Pavements all uneven. Here's one of the old, really old pubs. That's the George. And you see again there's one or two of these curved timbers there. It does make you wonder, doesn't it? Whether those rumours are true. I can hear a car coming. So let's get across the road and get out of his way. And there is the Star Inn. Probably one of the oldest inns in the district. And with this carving in the corner, and to be honest, I'm not exactly sure whether this is actually from a ship's prow or whether this was an actual carving done for the pub. Let's have a look. We can read up here. Rebuilt in the early 16th century, possibly on the site of an earlier rest house for pilgrims on their way to the shrine of St Richard in Chichester. Oh, it does come from a warship, probably sunk at the back of the Beachy Head in 1690. So now I have to do some research on the back of the Beachy Head. And here in the middle of the road is the ancient market cross, and not all of it, unfortunately. Sometime in the past a lorry crashed into it and knocked some of it off, but it's been put back together as best they can. It's only one or two left in Sussex. The other one apparently is at Chichester. Oh, it's a bit later than I thought now, 20 to 6. But as I said earlier, Alfriston is synonymous with smugglers. And therefore, it's no surprise that we find, as I go across here and look opposite, the old Smugglers Inn. But you can see the other sign up there that says Market Cross. That's what it used to be known as, the Market Cross Inn. And that was the headquarters of the smugglers. It looks nice enough, doesn't it? But apparently inside there's something like 47 doors, half a dozen staircases, and goodness knows how many hiding places. And that was all designed to fool the customs people. Now, Let's go across to the middle again here. When you talk about smuggling in Alfriston, the name Stanley Collins comes to mind. And Stanley Collins had his butcher's shop right over there. And to all intents and purposes, he was the local butcher here in Alfriston. But he had a darker side, of course. His smuggling gang were quite vicious, so I think they were probably part of the Hawkhurst gang. The funny thing is, he never got caught or punished for his smuggling. But he used to rustle sheep for his butcher's business. And he got caught doing that, and he was transported to Australia. I'm not going to walk down this road here, but this is typical Sussex country road. Older houses on the left, probably late Victorian houses on the right, and then you get to that house at the bottom. Look at that. Isn't that lovely? Now, believe it or not, years ago, before they had the new coach park, we had to come and drop passengers here and pick them up from here, and then negotiate this bend and drive along here. Ooh. My little grandson Oscar would be very interested in that. That's different, isn't it? Yeah, we had to drive the coaches along here, and then we'd go a little bit further along to where you see the beginning of that field in the distance, and then we had to go up and drive around the edge of the field and come back and park on the edge of the field on the other side in a marked area, and then go all the way back down there and negotiate that tight curve again to get back on the Eastbourne Road. Thank goodness that they built the new Willow coach park, and we could have a shorter route into Alfriston, because previous to that, the best way to come in was to come in from Seaford, so you didn't have to do that very tight turn. But anyway, here we are in the new one of the new car parks. But I just want to show you this rather unusual building over here. The sun isn't even up properly yet, and you think, what on earth is this building here? Now, I'll tell you what that is. That is the Alfriston Lockup. Now, ooh. Oh, that's a shame. There's an airplane going on over the top there, and the sun had just caught it and was making it shine in the sky. They're calling this the Flint Tower. Now, it says here that it was built in the early 20th century as a playhouse. And they reckon there was a mill on this site in the 17th and 18th, 19th centuries. interesting, because another sort of history that I've read refers to this as the Alfriston Lockup. Now I wonder which is true. If it's the Alfriston Lockup, it makes it quite unusual because you don't find many of them around in the country these days. And a lockup was where, in the villages and the parishes where there was no local police station, you would, a drunk might be rounded up, bunged in there for the night to sober up, or you might get, say, a convicted prisoner needing to go to a jail and a trial in a bigger town, and he would be kept there overnight before transport could be arranged for him. Oh, I do like that. I think this might be an appropriate moment to take a little break while I take a photograph of this sunrise.